Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Chris, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to repaint the wood siding on either your house or your shed. I'm going to be doing my shed today because it's getting in pretty rough shape, and the first and most important thing you need to do is prep. So I'm going to start off by scraping all the loose paint and debris off the wood siding. Then I'm going to spray it with a cleaner, then power wash it before we can get painting. I also want to thank Lowe's for sponsoring this video. All the products for this are available online and down in the description, so make sure you check them out. Thanks Lowe's, let's get started. The first thing you need to do is go around and take off anything attached to your siding that you don't want painted or is going to get in the way. Things like downspouts, eaves troughs, hardware, or anything else that's attached. You'll get a much cleaner look if you remove those items rather than trying to work around them. Then I like to go around with a variety of different scrapers to remove any chipped or loose paint, as well as removing any loose gunk or debris that's on the siding. Then it's really important to actually clean the siding. I'm using a product called Joe Max that you mix with bleach and water to clean the rest of the grime off the house, and it kills any mold or mildew as well. You just mix it in a sprayer and soak the siding and let it sit for a few minutes and then rinse it off before it has a chance to dry. When working on a house, you'll need to work in smaller sections at a time when both cleaning with this solution as well as when you paint. You don't want the solution to dry before you get a chance to rinse it off, and you want to keep a wet edge while you paint. Now before the cleaner dries, I'm going to use a power washer to rinse it. I'm going to use the less aggressive 40-degree tip, which will not only wash off the cleaning solution, but also blast off any of the remaining grime, dirt, stains, or mildew without actually damaging the siding. A power washer is a super useful tool that I would recommend to any homeowner, but if you don't have one, you can still just rinse the siding using your hose and a spray nozzle. It's just not going to be able to blast off the rest of that debris and grime. All right, now that the siding is nice and clean and it's dry, it's the next day, we're gonna go around with caulk, some paintable caulk, and caulk all the seams between the wood to make sure water doesn't get in and cause this siding to rot. I like to caulk any horizontal or vertical seam or corner that rain can enter through. On this board here, I'm just gonna caulk the top to try to prevent water from entering, but not the bottom, so that if water does enter, it still has a place to leave through the bottom. Without caulk, every time it rains, water is going to seep down between the trim board and the siding, and it will remain wet in there long after the rest of the siding has dried, which is going to lead to mold, mildew, and rot. I keep a bucket of water with a rag inside that I use to wet my finger to smooth the caulk and push it into the seam. The bucket of water lets you clean your finger as you go, and the water on your finger helps smooth the caulk out very easily. Now it's time to prime over any of the raw wood that was exposed during scraping. Even though the paint that I'm using is super high quality and says that it's primer plus paint, I always think it's a good idea to prime exposed wood before painting. I'm using Valspar's all-weather exterior primer and sealer.
All right, now that my primer's dry, it's time to mask off and start painting. You have a couple different options when painting. You can do the traditional paintbrush and roller, or if you're like me who's recently discovered how awesome paint sprayers are, you can go that route. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna mask off the surface of all these raised panels and border trim and things like that, and then I'll spray and let the gray paint cover these inside edges. You'll still get that raised panel look, and it saves you quite a bit of time having to worry about cutting in or masking this inside edge. And now that I have caulk in there, there's a slightly curved edge, which makes getting a nice straight line in that corner a little bit more tricky. It's gonna look great. I'm just gonna mask this off, spray, take the masking off, and then using a roller, I can roll all these proud surfaces on all my molding and trim and corner boards, and then I'll get a really nice straight clean line on that corner. I want to share with you real quick a couple awesome must-have tools, especially if you're painting the outside or inside of your house for masking stuff off. These are absolute game changers. I went years with just using masking tape and then fiddling around with paper. This little tool right here, it's not very expensive. It combines the tape and paper at the same time so that you can roll and get really, really nice, quick masked off areas. I'll show you how it works. You can either pull it out by hand or roll it yourself. Just kind of find what span you're going across. Rip it off. It has a little hook that you can put right in your pocket or on your ladder. Then you have the perfectly sized piece that you need. Just like that. And another really cool thing about these is you can add different size tape, different lengths of paper. They also have films that the roll will start out like this, and after you roll it, it folds down all the way up to like 6 feet, maybe even longer. So if you're doing windows or doors, these are an absolute must. It's really quick and easy, saves a ton of time. Now, if you don't want to invest in that tool, Lowe's also sells basically pre-made rolls of the tape and film on there. It's the same principle. Just kind of lay out the bit that you need, cut it off. Doesn't have a hook though. And then you stick it on. Imagine this is your door or window. And this one actually has the film, so you could adjust the length of coverage that you need, and then tape off the sides and bottom with your regular roll of masking tape. Super, super helpful. And then kind of the last little cool tool for masking is these tape holders that have a tapered edge to them, so it drives the tape right down into the corner, gives you something easy to hold on to, and also cuts the tape for you. So if I wanted to do like this inside edge or whatever, get my tape started, run it all the way in that corner, bring it down, cut it off, and I have a really nice seamed edge there.
Now that all my trim is masked, it's time to start painting. I'm going to use Valspar Duramax, which is totally saving my butt on this project because I waited so long into the fall to start. It's pretty cold outside now, but this paint can be applied in temps as low as 35 degrees. So I'm using the Wagner Control Pro 130 airless sprayer to paint this shed. This thing is an absolute beast. I couldn't believe how well it worked and just how much paint it can put out. You really have to move quick or you'll get a lot of buildup. These Wagner Control Pro series are ideal for large projects like a house, deck, or multiple rooms within a house. And I also have a Wagner Flexio HVLP sprayer, which I've used on several other projects. The HVLP stands for high velocity, low pressure, and that sprayer has the paint reservoir attached to the gun rather than a bucket down at the other end of the cord. It's much heavier to use, but it's also much more adjustable in airspeed, paint flow, and spray width. So if you're planning on using it for a lot of smaller indoor projects, I would recommend those HVLPs. But if you want a really, really good sprayer for your house or a lot of indoor rooms, that airless sprayer is the way to go. The HVLP also comes with a smaller spray head that's perfect for spraying smaller projects and for use with stains and varnishes. Now you can also do your house with an HVLP, but you got to carry around that heavier gun the whole way, and it kind of will get tiring. And it doesn't quite put out as much paint as this airless will. I used to be really intimidated by using sprayers, but I've found that they're actually really easy to use and they speed up painting tremendously. Plus, they're a heck of a lot more fun than using a brush and roller. Now I do recommend finding a large chunk of cardboard or wood to practice a little bit on first, and the key is to always keep your hand in motion while spraying. The paint comes out so quick that if you stop for just a second, it's going to really pile up and cause drips. You want to start your hand in motion before you pull the trigger and keep it moving after you let the trigger go to ensure a nice paint job. You also want to overlap each pass a little bit to ensure a nice even coat. Wood siding is pretty forgiving, so painting your house is a great project to try out spraying for the first time. I would recommend starting out on the side that the neighbors can't see, but in just a few passes, you'll definitely get the feel for the speed you need to go, the angle, and the distance, and if you have any ugly spots, you can always give it another coat and finish that once you get the hang of it. Now, I would also recommend having a brush, a roller, a wet rag, and bucket nearby in case you make any mistakes. If you spray too thick or have drips, you can always take off that extra paint with your brush or a paint roller, and then give it another quick spray and blend that area again. If you spray where you shouldn't, it's always good to have that wet rag and water at hand so you can wipe it up before it dries. Then you want to pull your tape before the paint has a chance to completely dry, and it will come off easier and give you better lines. Now it's time to paint the trim, and like I said before, I'm only doing the surface. I sprayed the gray paint inside the edges there, and I'm only going to be painting the surface to give myself really nice lines. For the tight corners, I'll be using a brush, and for everything else, I'll be using a small roller. Now these little paint pots from Lowe's are awesome because they have a liner that you can use to throw away afterwards, and you don't have to clean up the messy paint. And they also have a magnet for your brush, which makes it really easy to have both the brush and the roller with you in that pot at the same time. And here you can start to see that the raised trim board still stands out even though the inside edges aren't painted white, and just how easy it is to get a nice straight line using just that roller. The trick to getting nice crisp edges is to overhang the roller slightly and use light pressure to apply the paint. If you have too much paint on the roller or press too hard, it will squeeze paint around that edge and won't look quite as nice. So light, even pressure and your edges and corners will look beautiful. Now I know there's some people that are die-hard brush and roller people, and there's some people that are die-hard sprayers. I know professional outfits that use only brush and rollers and some that only use sprayers. There's pros and cons to both, and I think both will give you awesome results. Now down in the description I included a link to what I think is a really good multi-part series on painting a house. It has a ton of detail, and it also talks more about rolling if that's the route you want to take. It also will talk about back rolling after spraying, which some people believe in as well. I would highly recommend watching those videos as well, so feel free to check those out. The link's down in the description.
Well, everyone, that turned out awesome. Painting is not something I particularly like doing. It's something I dread, actually, but it's something that is hugely rewarding when you're all done. It makes you feel so much better. It's an important thing, important way to take care of your property, your house, your inside of your house, the outside of your house. So I hope you learned some tips and tricks on how to paint more effectively and efficiently. Some of the really cool tools out there that makes it a little bit easier for you. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, or you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hit that bell icon, and you'll get notified anytime I put out a new video. So thanks again so much, everyone. Thanks Lowe's for sponsoring this video. We'll see you next time.